Bitcoin was born to disrupt the financial system. You and I are looking at this asset class, and we're rapidly looking at how we can increase our ability to purchase more of these assets. So that's our narrative and that's our agenda. We want to be part of this possibly once in a lifetime shift.
So why it's a unique opportunity, Dan, and this is really crucial to understand, because it's a window, and I'd argue it's a window that's never going to happen in our lifetime again, which is we have the opportunity right now, as we sit here today, to front run venture capitalists in a way that has not existed in our lifetime before.
It's time to get moving. Last week we talked about the impending dangers of central bank digital currencies and how we must act fast. But we also touched upon the antidote, which is decentralized finance. And we ended by talking a little bit about Bitcoin, which of course is in the news right now as it's on the rise again. And what does this mean? We've been talking about these issues and subjects, Sam, now for many months. And now people are starting to pay attention, as they always do when things start to go on the up. So we're going to touch upon why that is. We're going to talk about how quote unquote smart money operate differently and to the rest, and why it's important to understand how to navigate this changing time, because of course the entire paradigm, there's a paradigm shift in finance right now. And lastly, Sam and I got together in London for the full day yesterday to establish where we're going to continue to take this show going forward, to really help you understand why this is so important and how you can be part of the change that's happening and how you can position yourself to make optimum decisions for your own financial future, Sam. So there's lots to cover here today, but really, the market's bullish and you and I are bullish about this conversation.
Yeah, there's loads to get to, Dan, and your point's so important that there's a tech revolution happening with the full spectrum energy within it. So exactly, you said we're looking at the rise of CBDCs and that impending arrival of that tech, that use of the tech. But within this same tech revolution, there is a decentralized Web3 revolution happening. And I think that's where it's important to understand, get educated, so you can position yourself better, and that's what's important. So being an active participant who can understand what's happening, you can actually navigate and position yourself in a better position than rather being trapped by some of the tools that are being built by the other side. So I think that's where it's a crucial education. And it's crucial to understand that, as you said, Dan, being educated about what's going on absolutely changes your outcome of especially being invested in these markets or understanding asset classes. And we're going to put up some charts later that's going to really show that in hopefully a really clear way that will demystify it for people.
Yeah, I mean, since we started the show and talking about this subject, it's been hugely divisive. You and I both come from a place of challenging the narratives the last few years, quote unquote freedom movement or the truth movement, however you want to describe these things. And within this space that, it's not like we've just jumped on and started talking to an audience of crypto aficionados who are just really interested in learning about this. We're trying to educate people about this changing world, and as a result, it's deeply divisive. And if you look at any of the comments, there's always, it's the same critiques coming up and over again. And it's like, I don't know how many times we need to address those points, but it's clear that there is a void of understanding at a deeper level of these things. But at the same time, I do acknowledge, with this technological shift, there is real skepticism around digital technology, because within it, as you said, it has the full energy, it has the capability to surveil, track, control in ways that we've never seen before. Quite frankly, I put a post out on Facebook this week saying, never in human history have we seen not only technology rising to the point which it can surveil and track and control us, but we're also seeing world leaders, political leaders adopting these things at a level that we've never seen before in human history. So the potential is there, but the utilization is also there, which is the problem. So you on one hand, you cannot separate the discussion between things like central bank digital currencies and Bitcoin. The similarities between some of the technology stacks that underpin them are there. They're not the same, but there is this evolution in technology that's enabling both to occur. But at the same time, you have to also look at them separately because they're not the same. And what the mistake that most people make is associating crypto, Bitcoin as the pathway to CBDCs. And the truth is, the path to CBDCs was there, probably long before what we're witnessing now, because even some of the banks in the world aren't even looking at using blockchain technology, but they're still looking to harness digital technologies to centralize their banking system. So it's important to be able to make those distinctions. But with this technological revolution, as you said, Sam, there is enormous opportunities And we were describing it yesterday as kind of .com 2.0.
Yeah.
And of course, that came with huge risks the first time. A load of people got burnt, and lots of people saying, "Oh, I lost all my money in crypto," which we'll talk about, or Bitcoin. So it's important to understand how to navigate this, and that's why we've created the show, to help you really get to grips with this, because there is a lot to get your head around. It's much easier to stay in the world of fiat currency with your HSBC bank account, or whatever, and just not paying attention to anything else. But at the same time, as we've talked about on the show, Sam, your cash is going to be eroding. Your wealth is going to be eroding day by day.
So many fears of moving into these new areas actually don't take into account the fears one should have of staying where you are.
Yeah,
and that's always the interesting. You always need to compare. So as we've always said, Dan, there are no panaceas. We're looking at using better tools and learning and improving our situation. And often that's comparing to what you're staying in or what you might be stuck in, and having more options. So often any criticism of any issue somebody sees with it is that's fine to look at the issues with anything, but always compare them to the issues of where you are now or what you're sitting in now. And I think that's really important. So, I even I had that question with somebody, well, what if I buy some Bitcoin and next year the value's down a bit, Dan? Well, I said, and this same person said, well, I've got my savings all in the bank. They got no idea, as we talked on our show a couple of weeks ago, if you had 50 grand in the bank 2 years ago, you are already down 7 grand. So again, the fear was, well, Bitcoin could go down, and I'm scared of that. Well, I'm telling you that you already have gone down, and you are continuing to go down by certain fiat currency. So again, this is the base of education, and that's what shifts the mindset. So getting beyond those oversimplified ideas of pro or against, or, I don't want to move, I'm scared, into real education just changes the landscape. You actually look at something that looks completely different. And that's also why it's so important, why we want to continue to demystify and even look at the charts that we're going to today, because to make it tangible. So the people who understand, who can see that, it's a completely different landscape. But a lot of people are kind of walking blind. And therefore, if you're walking blind, you are in a disempowered state now, because you do think, well, why should I go there? I can't see why. I can't understand why. And you shouldn't be trusting somebody else just saying blindly, go there because it's good. You get the education, you understand, and then you're taking the decision. And you're taking the decision because you understand why. And that's a whole different ballgame. So again, I always come back to it, it becomes monotonous to say, but education is the bottom line, and it does shift everything down. And if we can get educated about this tech revolution, which is happening for good, bad, and ugly purposes, everything, unless you go fully off grid, and that's your path, and we'll say, I salute you if that's your path and you're able to do it in the short term, you are in that world. So understanding what's happening and how you can position yourself better is really important. This tech revolution, I always say, is not going to not happen.
Yeah. Yep.
So it doesn't mean that I'm excited for what's happening in tech. There are aspects of it that are really good and disrupting and decentralized and a real shift, towards, breaking down the old paradigms. But equally, there's a lot of stuff that's absolutely more centralized, more control. But I think that's being realistic for me, that, if you're living in a, West country in this kind of lifestyle, then you understand that is happening, and it's happening rapidly, really rapidly. Arguably faster shifts than even when the internet age came in. This is a paradigm shift that's happening. It's going to be massive. So understanding that is really important. We are in the adoption phase of a brand new technology that's going to shift the way value is transacted across the world for the next few hundred years, potentially. Understanding that, I'd say, is pretty darn important.
Well, it's absolutely important. It's like, that's why, the .com 2.0 era is an important one. And again, looking back, thousands upon thousands of new companies, using this liberating digital technology, taking e-commerce online, and just incredible tools that enabled everyday people to do things that they'd never dreamed possible. Now, of course, it's easy to dwell upon the consequences of some of those technological shifts, several generations on, social media, the impact it's had on our lives. But you also have to look at the impact that it's had positively. And you can always find reasons not to do something. We see that in the comments all the time, reasons not to look at Bitcoin, or reasons not to look at gold. You can make reasons not to do anything, reasons not to go to the gym, reasons not to have a good relationship, reasons not to change your career when you're dissatisfied. The problem is, if you're only looking at reasons not to do something, you will just, quite frankly, stay where you are, which is what it actually subtly is a justification for your current position. And your point around, keeping money in the bank account, it feels safe because it's known. but the number doesn't change on the screen. So you don't think you're losing money because you're not factoring in the chart, which you don't see, which is the inflation chart. It's very easy to look at a Bitcoin chart and see it go up and down. You don't see that in your bank account. You see a number, but you don't see it adjusted for inflation. But when you do adjust it for inflation, so that's why Sam is saying, it's worth less because you can buy less with it.
Exactly. So that person said, I can't guarantee the price of Bitcoin anyway. I can guarantee you're going to be worse off next year in your bank than today. That I can guarantee.
Yeah.
So that's what's really interesting is, again, people feared, they want to know. Well, if you want clear guarantees, I guarantee you that at least.
Yeah. I saw I'm going to see if I can find it. I took a screen grab of it. There was here it is. For the people in our audience who have seen Home Alone, the 1990s film. There's a shot here actually. Kevin, the character played by what's his name?
Macaulay Culkin. Yeah,
that's him. Yeah. He spent a total of, this is from the film. He spent a total of $19.83 on orange juice, a Saran wrap, toilet paper, dryer sheets, frozen mac and cheese, milk, Tide. I don't know what Tide is. American thing probably. TV dinner. TV dinner, Wonder Bread, and toy soldiers. Today, that would have cost $63.89. So, it shows how inflation is radically shifted. Obviously, changes the price of goods, and therefore our purchasing power changes. So it's getting your head around these basics. And I remember studying economics at business school, at my secondary school, and then I went on to study it as a degree level. And it's simple but complicated at the same time. It's made complicated, like anything, like law or finance, in order that the regular people can't understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we're trying to do is demystify the whole thing, so you can go, right, how can I make educated, smart decisions about my finances?
So many out there, they know they do something, but they're scared by the options and not sure. And just by simplifying it, shining a light, making the intangible tangible, making it visual, be able to see it. Those people, then you can take million-pound steps, and those people feel much better because they know they need to make a step down. They know it; it's there, and that's where the call to action actually is such a relief to take those steps and do it.
Absolutely, and it's okay to feel scared. It's a changing world. It's crazy out there. It's uncertain. It's wild. Acknowledging your fears is the first step to moving beyond them. Quite frankly, but it's. When you find yourself in a trap of simply making excuses not to change when you know you need to, then that's what you need to confront. You need to confront what's in the mirror, which is holding you back, because there is a paradigm shift happening for good, bad, and ugly. But for the good, there's really the next decade is going to be phenomenal. It feels, if you only get driven by the news, and most of our audience, come on, you shouldn't be getting driven by the news. If you're getting driven by the economic news, you're going to feel like, oh, it's like doom and gloom, like massive economic uncertainty, which is all true temporarily. But at the same time, what will follow this, I believe, is a period of, it's inevitable that there'll be a period of real prosperity and growth. But it's how you position yourself, because as always, there's always winners and losers. But the key is the people who win do things differently.
Yeah.
They're not special beings. They have the same 24 hours in the day that you and I do. They just learn things differently and do things differently. And therefore, we want to understand the habits and behaviors and mindsets of the smart money so that we can become empowered to do the same. Because otherwise, we can sit back and keep saying all these other people are ruling the world. And yet, what are we doing to enhance our own power?
Dan, it makes me think of that, the line over here, which the market, I'm scared to get the markets because they're rigged. The biggest rigging is your fiat system.
Yes.
So, and people don't realize it. So when you understand that rigging, where you're in that, now what's so interesting, and the charts will really help us when we pull them up, is that, of course, there's manipulation like there is in any industry or any market. There's that's timeless. That's human behavior, through the eons of tricksters or trying to manipulate. But the majority of manipulation is psychological, based on you not understanding what's going on. And I always say, so education gets you out of all that manipulation. So there's an idea of, I'll do that, they'll just rob me all. They just won't, it will go their way. But again, it's where you position yourself, and you can see in the cycles, and we'll show you how the people understand what's going on and position themselves well. And so the manipulation is much more psychological, and you being, pulled around by narratives and manipulated to buy high, sell low. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we've all said it. If you do that, who bought high and sold low? You did. No one forced you to do it. Is that manipulation? Yes, you could argue that, using the media, they've done it, but a whole part of what we're talking about being more empowered and decentralized is we've extracted ourselves. And many more people the last 3 years happily have extracted themselves from those media narratives, understanding how agenda driven they are and how they're not in your best interest. You take that back and look at things from your own, educated, calm standpoint, you see it very differently, and you can act well accordingly, whether that's in finance or health or sovereignty or anything, any faculty of life. So that's where it's so different, that the idea that everything's rigged against you is a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and again another excuse to not move, because there's no point. Dan, we talk about that kind of idea. Well, there's no point because this or this.
Yeah.
Well, that's absolutely, if you've got somebody who's looking to control you, where do they want you? They absolutely want you to say there's no point trying anything because it's pointless. That's the ultimate control.
Yeah.
That's basically saying, I'm not going to try anything. I'm not going to be proactive. And that's exactly where a controller would want you to be. So, and there is a different way, no question.
Yeah.
And as you said, Dan, you talked about 2008 because you were very much there and saw in the banking industry that people who understood that was coming, which a lot of people out here understand there's big shifts coming. The people who buried their head in the sand suffered through that.
Absolutely.
The people who looked at it and said, hang on, I need to look at this, learn what's going on, and then move accordingly. And actually, these shifts are huge opportunities, particularly if you're not happy with where your sort of, finance has been before, or the systems you've had in place. This is a great opportunity to look at it and maybe do them better than you've ever done. So I always thought it, rather than just, there are obviously ways to mitigate what's coming and protect. It's also one of the biggest opportunities of a generation. And the top people don't want you to understand that. They understand the shift. They're going to position themselves. You can do that, and we're in a unique window. And that's what I'm bullish about, is actually you grab hold of this. Okay, there's a wave, huge. You can ride waves, or you can get drowned by the waves. Okay, and that's what's critical. It's where you position yourself, and the skills you learn, and it's all within your power to do, but you've got to make that effort.
Yeah, I mean, I was too young to do anything about the .com bubble in the first place, to position myself to gain from that. But
or maybe we weren't too young, but or maybe I wasn't too young, but I was too preoccupied with other pursuits. Let's say.
Yeah, yeah. So wait, how old was I? Yeah, no, I definitely was the early 90s. I don't know how too long. I mean, there's people making millions before 10 years old these days. Getting on YouTube. So different times. But now is a very unique. There is a unique shift in the technological landscape, the financial landscape, and it's exciting. It is scary at the same time, but it's exciting. But let's bring it back to some hard realities. Let's have a look at this chart you're talking about. So I'm going to pull up the all-time.
Yeah, the Bitcoin
chart, so you can talk us through what's happening here.
And this is really powerful for people who've aware of Bitcoin but never actually seen the chart or understood the history, Dan. And so what we see here, and again, I put this in a logarithmic scale, which means we can see the huge growth from cents on the dollar all the way up to where we are today at 42,000, 43,000, and change today, and actually where it peaked in November 21 at 69,000. To fit all that data in, you can see the moves early on are in the dollars, but then we move up to the $1,000 move. So logarithmic scale, without getting too technical, is a way of seeing all that data in one simple image. But what's important to understand, there are cycles, and cycles play out. And so a lot of people would buy Bitcoin if they don't understand cycles or what moves the price, that we discuss a lot in our program now, don't we? What moves the markets? People just think, what is it? I'm just going to buy it. I love it when it's going up. I'm terrified when it's going down, and they don't know how to react. When you understand the cycles, what you can see here very clearly is from 2010, onwards, which is really the time it began getting traded. It came out 2008, 9, sort of more 2009, being handed around. You can see these bull markets, which is the large growth areas, the green candles going up, and then the bear markets. And so what happens is things are, get exciting, get overbought, overvalued, and then they retrace. They become, they need needs to cool off. And things cooling off in the bear market. So we can see that, and clearly into 2013 there, top of 2013, and into top of 2017, then to top of 2021. And then what we've been through in the last 2 years is a classic bear market. So each time the news cycle has said, this is the end, it's all over. So at this time, that happened in 2013, 2017. It happens again in 2022. It's all over again. But in fact, we've got a normal bear market. And what's really interesting is you can see now, Dan, we've been in that bear market for a couple of year period from sort of November 21 to, today, a couple of years. And actually what you can see on that chart is we're starting to move out of that bear market.
Yeah.
So we're today trading at $43,000. The bottom of the bear market was about $15,000. And I always say this, that was the day The Economist announced crypto is dead, right? And if you bought, again, the manipulation. So if you panic sold, you're not educated. You understand this technology or the future of this market and the cycles. You panic sold. Maybe you bought because the hype you bought at 16, the 60,000s because it's the excitement the mainstream media are pushing. Well, everyone's getting rich. You bought then. You rode it down to 15,000, and then the Economist front cover and all newspapers saying this is the end. It's all over. You sold, and you say, "Oh, I lost my money in crypto." But again, you got rid of it, didn't understand what's going on. The people who bought that fear and that media manipulation of 15,000, and now, as you see, Dan, they're sitting rather pretty. They are, over 200% up, aren't they? Well, they've done a 15K to there. They've almost done a 3x.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's since, that's in the last year. Okay. So was Bitcoin over? No. Was the crypto market over? No. It was the beginning. So understanding that's really important. And what I've found, and again, I understand this, is I've been educating a lot of people about obviously crypto, Bitcoin, the markets, just how they work and what's going on in them for the last couple of years. And understandably, if you've not experienced, a bull market before, you don't understand the cycles, a lot of people, though they hear that these things have a future and that this asset class will grow enormously, until it actually happens, they don't believe it because they don't understand the cycles and they don't understand that asset classes rise and fall. And so the people who understand that would always said, I absolutely know. The only thing I can guarantee, Dan, when we're in that bear market is that a bull market will come. But for the people who don't get educated, they don't understand that, or they don't really believe it or feel it or know that in their gut. So therefore they wait and wait and wait. And now the belief's starting to come. And I understand that. There's no criticism in that. That's just natural human behavior. And if you haven't really dive deep in this area, you think, well, it just might not. I don't see why it would. When you understand the cycles and what makes the market moves, and also, in our course, in my course, and also in the NFR program we host, we go much more into the depths of, why they move. It's not just looking at something going, do something. It's moving because of macroeconomic factors and cyclical things within the macroeconomy, whether it's money printing, whether it's quantitative easing, whether it's what's happening in the liquidity in the flowing into the bond markets, the debt markets that flows down. So when you understand all these things, it's going to happen. Therefore, you can buy with great confidence the lows because it's going to come. You don't know exactly when, but what you'll see in a cycle again is a lot of new, retail money will flood into the market back at tops of cycles again when it's exciting, when everyone's coming out. And what we're going to see, again, if you want to pick up another couple of charts, and this really underpins where education changes everything, right? Because we're going to look at a couple of charts. This is the same, that black line there we can see there is the same Bitcoin price chart, okay, as we saw in the previous slide. So that black line is the Bitcoin growth there. And the orange line that's going along with it is the total supply held by long-term holders. And typically, this is a more experienced investor, a more clued up person in the space. So looking at their behavior, you can see that orange line is charting the growth of their holdings in Bitcoin and when that's going up and when that's going down. So what you can see there on the chart is almost an inverse relationship with the rise in Bitcoin and the growth or the diminishing of their holdings. And what that means is you can see those kind of bear market times. They are stacking Bitcoin. They're increasing their holdings. So they increase their holdings all through those bear markets, understanding it's undervalued. And as we get to that big bull market, I don't know if you can put the cursor down on that one that's just above node. Yeah, that one there. You can see they've been stacking all the way through that period. Okay, so the orange line's been going up. Okay, and then once prices really start to go up and go parabolic, getting into the excitement phase and getting overvalued, they're starting to offload. They're starting to sell some. Okay, and then when the market's peaked and it's going back down again, they're starting to load up again. So this is how they understand the cycles and they position themselves accordingly. And that's what's really interesting to see, because the next slide is going to really give you a stark contrast. And the next chart is the short-term holders, which is a lot more retail investor or people are not so clued up. You can see we've got the black line again, which is the Bitcoin chart, and we've got the orange line, which is the short-term holders and their supply. And look at the stark difference between the last chart we saw there and the shapes that are being formed. So different. The behavior is markedly different. And what we're generally seeing is they're following the market. They're absolutely following the market. So they're increasing as it goes up and decreasing, in those times when it's low. So often it's showing that they are buying higher prices and generally selling lower prices rather than stacking in the low areas and offloading in the high areas. So this is the way you understand that if you get educated, regardless of all this talk about manipulation and whales in the market, which of course is going on, but general trends, you can play them very well, very easily, regardless. That is happening. And so if you can behave more like, smart money, which is all we want to talk about. Again, I don't want to use these terms can sound derogatory, Dan, can't they? You're smart and dumb. But let's talk about it. Are you educated? Do you understand the market or do you not understand the market? That's as simple as it. And anybody has in the power through education to understand the markets and do well. And again, rather than just think about the markets as the markets, the fiat market is a market. So rather than thinking, well, I don't want to know about the markets at all, well, you're in the market. Whether you don't have any assets in sort of commodities or crypto or stocks, you're still in the market. So your education around even the fiat market is what helps you, because the people who are educated understand why they're moving out the fiat market as well. So that's why it's universal to everybody. And that's why we're trying through the show to shine a light on that, Dan, and that show that actually those people have been accumulating all through. And actually, I don't know if you can pull back that chart, Dan, just the long-term holders one, just so we can touch on where we are today, because it's really relevant. Just at the end of this chart here, you can see, look, we've been in this bear market, that flat line before we start to move up. What's that orange line been doing? And that's happened around, you can see there how it started accumulating at the real bottoms. At the time, most retail were panic selling, take a loss, they're accumulating. So again, if you understand that, you have confidence because the people who are educated about this market are absolutely accumulating like crazy through bear markets, stacking, ready for the future bull runs because they know it's coming, rather than waiting for that. And that's what happens in the retail world is, waiting for things to be exciting and overvalued and then buying them. And then the same thing, this is what's so interesting about psychology, Dan, the same thing is cheaper and undervalued, no one wants it. So it's a really interesting about human behavior. It's the same thing. Whether we talk about houses or Bitcoin or it's almost like it's expensive, I want it. Well, it's the same thing, and now it's cheap, I don't want it. And it's there is a comical side of it, but it's so interesting about humans how we behave, right? So everybody wanted Bitcoin at 60,000, and they were gutted they missed it at 20,000. It's the same thing. This is what's more to remember. It's the same asset. It goes back to 20,000. They don't want it anymore. Rather than buy some at 20,000, they might sell it, get rid of it. They bought it. So all these things, again, are really simple ways to understand. And that's what, I'm really passionate about educating about, not because I'm ever promoting, you must do this. I always my talks, Dan, it when I do talks, there's nothing anybody should do apart from get educated, in my opinion. That's really helpful to then be able to make good decisions. And rather than follow anybody into any way, go, no, get educated, see what's going on, and then you can position yourself accordingly. And it can transform your journey.
Yeah, and the thing with Bitcoin is, there's the phrase, when Bitcoin rises, the ocean rises. It's the market moves with Bitcoin, which means that if there's a certain percentage gain within Bitcoin, the reality is you may have double, triple, quadruple that kind of gain within other assets within the class. Yeah. So what it's showing is an industry growth.
Yeah.
In the market cycle. So underpinning all of this, and again, people are missing the big point, the big picture around the technological shift that underpins a lot of this. They see it as a cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
that's purely what they see it for, and it's understandable in the way it's all presented. But this is all representative of a new technological class, and as a result, there is innovation on a grand scale, and a lot of this is decentralization. A lot of it is decentralized technology, Web3. A lot of it is decentralized. A lot of it is actually born. Bitcoin was born to disrupt the financial system. Okay, there's all kinds of debate about whether there are agencies, and there always is. And again, if you buy into that narrative every time with anything that shows potential, you're going to remain stuck. These narratives, I often think, come around just to keep people suppressed. I wonder how many narratives actually are deliberately designed to keep people in scarce mindsets, keep people from actually embracing change, so that the smart money can continue to win. I just want, I can't help but wonder, all the things that circulate amongst people who therefore remain where they are and therefore don't advance. You have to ask who's proliferating all of those stories and who's gaining from them. With everything, with every narrative, you have to ask who's gaining.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you and I are looking at this asset class, and we're rapidly looking at how we can increase our ability to purchase more of these assets. So that's our narrative and that's our agenda. We want to be part of this once possibly once in a lifetime
Oh,
shift.
it's a unique opportunity. And again, I'm really glad you made that point, because a lot of people are confused that, why, which assets move. But generally, Bitcoin is over, over half the market. We talk about Bitcoin dominance is 52% today of the market liquidity in cryptos in Bitcoin. You've got about a third that in Ethereum, and then you've got the rest. But the fact is, the energy of the market, which is why I show often, of course, I look at the charts, you'll see very similar patterns with all the other coins, because Bitcoin is the energy of the market. Now, what's important is, you're absolutely right, that definition, that being clear that this is not just some currencies, some other currencies, a rebel currency space. This is the baseline tech of the future. That's also why this unique opportunity is unreal, which is why it's .com, too, is because you're not going, well, there's a few rebel currencies I'm going to get in, it might all end or it might do well, who knows, 50-50 gamble. That's not what the people who educate are involved with. That's not why, and again, look at the evidence. That's not why Grayscale Trust have a huge position of altcoin holdings that are the future building blocks of the future tech world. All these big institutions, they understand that. But of course, they're telling you it's a scam and a fad, and we're going to protect you from investing in it. So Santander are nicely going to say, we're not going to let you risk your money in this terrible world, while we help all our private clients in Switzerland get more and more exposure to it. We'll actually help them, call them up and convince them to do it. So
yeah, true story.
Understand that it is absolutely one of the biggest growth areas in the world for all purposes. And again, Web3 revolution, but the new financial system, everything is part of this tech sector. So why it's a unique opportunity, Dan, and this is really crucial to understand, because it's a window. And I'd argue it's a window that's never going to happen in our lifetime again, which is, we have the opportunity right now, as we sit here today, to front run venture capitalists in a way that has not existed in our lifetime before. So in typical stock markets, in the traditional stock markets, generally venture capitalists often have a lot of inside info, but let's look at, they might be in Silicon Valley, picking up the big tech companies of the future, putting their money as angel investors, investing, growing them 10,000%, okay, making all their growth and gains, and then dumping that stock on the stock market, floating. And then you, the person, the retail investor, can come in through your broker, pay all the fees, and maybe have exposure to that stock, and maybe make small growth over the years. They've made all the huge growth and left and moved on to the next thing. What's so interesting is that within the crypto space, we are able to do that right here, right now, today, pretty much at any level. As I said, it's a window because it's getting harder because the bank's stopping us, but it's still very possible, and there's always a way. But right now, you can come in with £50, wherever you are in the world, $1,000, $5,000. You can get in to these new ecosystems at the base, at the beginning, really, because this is not, people say, is it too late? This is the beginning of the blockchain revolution. Okay, you can come in now and take self-custody asset with no broker and have a stake in these future value ecosystems, which is essentially the new, apps of the world, dApps, decentralized apps. Okay, you can have a stake in that, like having a stake in the .com era, via no broker, hold it in self-custody. And what's so interesting, because we're not in a fully regulated market yet, which is what's in progress, Dan, a lot of the huge money is waiting on the sidelines, venture capitalist firms, sovereign wealth funds, to come into this market, and they can't, for compliance reasons, as much as they want to with clients' money, until it's regulated. So here is actually a unique opportunity where we're front running. It's turned the whole table on its head. The old system is, right, you can come in now once they've done all that. Actually, we can come in, and the market will be flooded by venture capitalist money in the future. And we're seeing institutional money piling already, but when full regulation comes, that comes in a huge wave. And I've always said, the size of the blockchain market, which we were talking about the tech market, rather than say the size of Bitcoin or crypto, the size of this blockchain asset class is now $1.5 trillion. And I've got to change what I'm saying, because I've been calling it a trillion, Dan, which it has been for the last 2 years. But already those people understand how quick the growth is. We are today at 1.6 or 1.7 trillion almost. That's happened in the last month. So in terms of the growth, the reason the growth can be so rapid and quick is because it's so tiny. So we've gone from a small glass of water to a bigger glass of water now. But we're still a bigger glass of water compared to oceans of liquidity that will move into this market. So that's where the unique opportunity lies. Absolutely extraordinary opportunity. And the people who understand that are not scared of losing their money in crypto. They understand they want exposure to this market. And the big players are obviously building the tools for their bigger clients to have exposure in a different way through brokers, paying premiums. That's what's so interesting. A lot of the assets are really solid. A lot of those trusts, like Grayscale and people, are selling to their clients at kind of 3 or 4 times over the market price through their own trusts. But actually, if you're clued up and you get clued up and you know how to self-custody and you know how to get on the exchange, and that's what we teach in the Navigating Digital Assets course, and that's how we extrapolate on in the Navigating Financial Reset support program, is you could get in there and pick those up for a quarter of the price that the kind of mainstream investor who's too scared to learn these skills is going to buy, through their trust and not have self-custody. So understanding these things transforms it, and then you can see the risk reward is unlike anything in the world today. And also, like Dan, I really want to highlight there's an incredible, obviously potential of wealth generation, which is going to give many more people options because you're not going to get wiped out the financial reset. You can do more things, but also there's a whole load of really interesting things. The more you dive into it, if that's your calling, it's not everybody's, to look at what's really interesting happening in the Web3, disrupting the centralized old tech of Web2. Really interesting things going on across the level. So it's a much more interesting topic when you get into it. And again, you can also then get into it and not be, in the hopium side of it's a panacea, it's going to do that, or in a complete fearborn. You can see the whole spectrum. I see that whole spectrum, Dan, but I can see it and visualize it, and I know where the different things are within it. So I'm not caught in any of those binaries. I understand, and it's much more interesting, and you can see where you want to position yourself. So I always say, if you understand that revolution is coming, it's important to position yourself in the best place possible for you.
Yeah.
And that's within your power.
Yeah, the hard reality and the harsh reality is, a lot of the negative comments we get, I see it's underpinned by fear. You can see the psychology playing, but I understand the fear and I understand the skepticism. It's said with compassion, but at the same time, if you are self-aware of that fear and you do nothing about it, one thing that will be almost guaranteed is you'll be in the same position this time.
Yep.
In 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, and one of the starkest reality for me is when I went through an exercise several years ago. At a seminar, and they had us future pace our current reality if we stayed the same. And, whether that's like certain patterns of behavior or relationships or, dissatisfied jobs, all of these things. And, they magnified it over 5, 10, 25 years. What would the impact of continuing to do the same, doing what you're doing the same over that time period? And, when you start to really think about that, and it was a closed eyes process, you had to visualize it, you start to see how much some of these unhealthy patterns can really have a destructive effect over the quality of your life over the long term and your relationships and, the erosion of your potential.
Yeah.
It's just staggering. And, it was such a moving process so that, you can also do the process the other way is, if you make change today and you set clear goals and you take a course towards a more empowered future, then start to look what your future looks like and start to visualize the change.
Yeah.
But the world will change with or without you. The world will do its thing. The markets will do their thing. It's what you do in the midst of all of that that makes the difference. This is why we're talking about positioning yourself. Now, we've looked at Bitcoin today. We're not here to, we're excited about this new technological revolution for many reasons. One, because we think some of it's really fascinating. It can do really cool stuff. Secondly, as an opportunity in our lifetime, it's an opportunity to create generational wealth.
Yep.
I'm a new father. I'm thinking to the future. This is an opportunity to put together, Zach's tuition for if he wants to go to university, to safeguard his future. To give Lizzie, my wife, and I, a solid. We're not interested in the traditional pension system. We want to find our own, future financial planning. There's this grand opportunity. And of course, within this sector, there is risk. Where there's risk, there is reward. And, that's the important thing to recognize. And the important thing around that is that, again, smart money will diversify. So they will offset the risks of one asset class with the safety of another. That's why we've talked about gold recently, because gold is historically that safe haven. But it seems that it doesn't matter what asset class we talk about. We can talk about cash and everyone will be happy. And we will talk about cash because it's still important that we preserve the privacy and the sovereignty that offers. But at the same time, if that's all we talk about, then we're going to just suffer the pain. It's a symptom. Cash is a symptom of the most corrupt fiat centralized system.
Exactly, which is why I made the point, Dan. I think the powers that be are quite happy if only one is talking about cash.
Yeah.
Because they want you to try that, because we don't go over it again here, but all the problems with sitting with your value in cash, not just losing value, but also the control that gives the powers that be, because that is their currency in their control, that they make legal tender or not. So you have to understand, it's almost like we talk about the risks. The biggest risk, Dan, is not getting educated and staying where you are. So that's the kind of way up is it's risky moving there. it's almost like it's risky not moving and
Yeah.
not diversifying and not looking at things. And I'm so pleased you talk about goals, Dan, because you're absolutely right. To sort of answer people who say I'm not into this kind of way of technological stuff when I want to go off grid. I know many people and work with many people and talk to many people and mentors who are in this space because their goal is to go off grid longer term. So they're using that tool. So it's not you, and having your goals is really important. This is a unique opportunity to reach your goals, and your goals don't have to be tech related at all. Most people's goals I know aren't, but you understand this shift. So actually, it's going to give you the ability to do the projects you want to do, whether those projects are much more in touch with the land and tangible things.
Yeah.
So it's really important to go. It's not get into crypto for the sake of being a techie or into crypto or looking at screens. It's actually an opportunity to do that to longer term, not be doing that. So it's really important to understand that. I know a lot of people who are in this space to go off grid and build structures like that in the future, and this is their opportunity to be able to do it. So it's again harnessing the tools and the opportunities out there and making stepping stones towards your goals, Dan. And that's why it's important. Goal setting, what you want to do, and then seeing how you position yourself to reach those goals. None of them are end in themselves. Making doing well in crypto or Bitcoin or whatever is not the goal, is it? The goal is how you use that energy and that value.
Absolutely.
To improve your life and other people's lives and community lives and build solutions and have more options. And that's what I'm really passionate about, particularly is that a large part of the financial reset agenda and the controls agenda is to wipe as many people out into dependence, because dependence is where they want people, because the state has to step in or the state will save you. They will bail you out into their system. The more people can have more options and more independence financially, the freer they are. The freer they are in their own choices and the freer they are to help others and themselves and their families, communities. So that's where I talk about, navigating financial reset and doing well is, to me, a form of activism against the system to build better things and have greater strength practically in moving forward. And that's a really important, underpinning caveat of why I like to have these discussions now.
Yeah, and the other harsh reality that people need to face is that, people talk about central digital bank digital currencies like we were last week, is that the first asset class that's going to get sucked up by CBDCs is cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Fiat money is the currency that will be adopted by central bank digital currencies.
Yeah.
So when people talk about, when talk about these other asset classes, they're going to take all those. Well, the first one they're going to take is cash. That's the first asset that they're going to have true control over.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, again, I'm not arguing against cash, because cash is the last bastion of a privacy token in the physical world.
Yeah.
The state-approved version, by the way, the state-approved token of privacy. Whereas things like Bitcoin and these new altcoins do offer the same privacy in a container that is free from government interference.
Yeah, that's where you look at also privacy coins, Monero. There is tech doing that role of cash in a worldwide transacting format. So again, it's also looking at reality. We talked about, Dan, that if you have to look at the realities of it. If you go only cash and that's your thing, well, then that stops you transacting maybe somebody you want to across the world. And maybe you do want to go more local, but equally you have to look at the realities. We always say this: look at the realities of decisions. If you want to go off grid total local, then you have to look at the reality of that, and all power to you, and I support that. But understand the realities of that, and that's what it's very easy to talk about these things in laudable ways, but to really live that, whatever, you've got to look at the consequences of that, and if you're able to do that, I fully support that. So it's never an argument pro or against.
And the thing is, Sam, most people that I speak to that are concerned about the current state of the world aren't looking to go off grid. It's a small proportion of people. Most people want to continue to live their lives within the structures that they've been part of for the last however many years, because they're friends, family, they've got community. They don't want to extract themselves. A lot of people I speak to that do want to extract themselves is because they're so afraid of what the government is going to do.
Yeah.
And I think doing anything out of fear is not healthy. If you're doing, again, we've talked about food growing in the past. I was talking to a food production, a couple of people working on food production, and they were doing it because they were so afraid that the government was going to take all their food. I'm like, well, you're sowing that into the soil. What do you think that's going to do?
Yeah.
So it's you have to catch yourself making decisions. Now, I know some people have done some amazing things off grid. And by the way, your point around making money to go off grid, there's a family I went to visit in Cornwall. It's cost them 2.1 million, but they've bought the land, they've built property, they grow all of their own food, they create all of their own power. They've gone completely off grid, but it cost 2.1 million.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everyone has 2.1 million to go completely off grid. So, if you want to do things, and they, don't get me wrong, they've got a lovely premise. They've got, they're actually creating produce to the local community, so they're revenue generating, etc. But it's if you want to do things and live a comfortable life, you have to have the assets to do that. So part of the reason why we're talking these these changes in the financial landscape is they offer the opportunity to create wealth. I want to play my role in making a difference in the world, and will continue to do so. And I want to tune as much of my efforts when it comes to my business decisions and my financial decisions to that end as well. That's where the convergence is. It's fantastic. We can build businesses and we can invest in opportunities that can actually start to disrupt and build a new reality, then create a new model. And I think
Totally
that's
done.
that's the education enables us to do that.
100%. The more people with good intentions who can understand, the money system and what's going on and generate more value and use it, the better that is for everybody's future.
Yeah. On the flip side, Sam, is the old adage: the road to good intentions is paved without paved. What's the phrase?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Good intentions. That's right.
Yeah.
But so on the flip side, it's this. The other phrase that comes to mind is, some watch what happens, some wonder what happens, and some make things happen. And this is a time to make things happen. This is why this is called times. It's time to get moving. It's time to get moving. It's not just time to sit on the sidelines. What we want to do here is actually activate people so that they make a difference, not only to their own lives but to the lives around them. We can't sit around and watch any longer. This is all happening with or without you. Yep. So, you have to choose the course that you're on. You can't sit back and just wait for it to happen. It's going to happen. It's happening, and it's happening at speed. But what decisions are you going to make? So, to support people, that's why we do this show, and that's why we have the Navigating the Financial Reset program, which is where we meet twice a month to look at these things in detail. And in 2024, we've agreed that we're going to bring a real faculty of different viewpoints to help us get a really holistic understanding of how the markets are moving and what the different assets are doing. So that you can really, really it's going to become, in our view, one of the most important financial education programs out there, particularly for people like you and I who are, particularly concerned about the state of the current reality from a particular lens of the authoritarianism, the digital tyranny, and the erosion of our freedoms. We and the grand narratives that shape our society. We want to create a space which is a curated and holistic financial education platform, because where else can you get that has the awareness of the wider challenges in the world? That's what we're creating. So if you're curious to be part of that, head over to weareelevate.org/reset. And you can find out about the Navigating the Digital Assets course, which is the fundamentals of what we've been talking about today. And you've also got the Navigating the Financial Reset support program, which we've got where we meet twice per month and look at this much wider holistic. We've got nearly 20 modules worth. By the end of the year, we'll have 20 modules worth of content, a rich buffet of financial education, everything from setting your financial goals to money mindset to a deeper understanding of how to enter into these ecosystems that we've been talking about today. Different asset classes, different economic markers, so you can really understand the nature of the current system and where it's going. And we're just getting started, Sam. Yesterday was like we're talking about autumn energy, like it's getting cold now, but we're kind of drawing in all the tidying things up, getting ready to really ramp up our own game in 2024.
Absolutely, and it's the old classic. I expect the power structure to ramp things up 24, 25, and that's just a call to ramp your own game up.
Yes,
it's the old classic. You rise. It's a choice. You rise. You shrink. You shrink down, or you rise to the challenge. And that's what this amazing people have done over the last 3 years. We're rising to the challenge. This is a great time to be alive. The exciting time to be alive. We're meeting the challenges. We're looking at new solutions. And just end on down. There's so much already in the program that people can dive into. And I always say this. I want to end on this point that I hear endless stories. Of somebody says, I meet someone say, well, my son-in-law lost all his money in crypto. Or I heard of neighbor, they lost all their money in crypto. And I have the frustration, I just want to say, tell me the story and I'll tell you what happened. And there's always a reason. But the story kind of stands there as this soundbite that scares everybody, as if somehow crypto stole their money or a button got pressed, they lost it. It's too scary. The people who've done my course, the people who've been on our program, understand that that's not the case. And that anybody who's done crypto properly, and I'm always passionate, if you're going to get involved in any digital assets, you get the foundation in place, you do it properly. Nobody who's bought solid digital assets, who's had patience, not been corralled by media narratives, who's taken their self-custody, has ever lost any money. Actually, quite the contrary. They've increased their wealth enormously. So that's what's so important about us getting out of a soundbite that's got so much energy into it and into grounded knowledge, awareness, and that transforms the whole landscape ahead of you, and you can view things and participate in a totally different and empowered state.
Absolutely, and that leads to empowered action, which leads to empowered results. So thank you, Sam. As always, yeah, we managed to go over by 15 minutes. We try to keep it to 45. We had some positive feedback about the slightly shorter episodes last time. So we're going to try and condense them down a little bit going into 2024. Again, next year, we're going to be making some changes. We're going to be broadcasting twice per month now, bringing you financial education in a way that no one else is at this moment in time. So make sure that you check out the link, weareelevate.org/reset. And I do hope so. We'll see you inside some of our programs. Thanks again, Sam, for a fascinating conversation.
Cheers, Dan.